Oh, hi, you found us.
We're Steph and Jen. We're both sleep consultants, we're both mums, and we're here to help you and your little ones get some much needed sleep. So just a wee disclaimer before we begin. Anything that we discuss on this podcast is not medical advice. The discussions we will have are intended to give some guidance to parents that want it. However, every child is different, and as a parent, you will be the one that knows what is best for your child. If our chats help you, then that's amazing. But if you don't feel it resonates with you, or you're happy doing things your own way, then that's absolutely fine too. If things are working for you, don't feel you need to change anything.
Welcome back to Mama Needs Sleep. On this episode, we're going to be discussing sleep difficulties, the things that are keeping your baby awake, things that are keeping them awake all night, and causing them trouble to fall asleep in the first place. So, Jen, do you want to start us off with talking about overtiredness?
So overtiredness is kind of always the first thing that I would say to look at when you're having any sort of sleep difficulties, whether it is the actual root cause of the sleep issues or it's just an unfortunate side effect from whatever the root cause was. Chances are that there's going to be an element of overtiredness playing a part in causing some further sleep difficulties. And just because you almost end up with a bit of a vicious cycle. So when a baby is overtired, their body produces more cortisol, which makes it more difficult for them to fall asleep, which makes them more overtired, and so on.
Yeah.
And if actually overtiredness wasn't the original problem, when you start having these struggles with falling asleep, waking in the night, right away sleep's disrupted, and then overtiredness starts to kick in anyway, and the same kind of vicious cycle then kind of comes into play. So yeah, whenever anybody kind of comes with sleep difficulties, that's always the place I say to sort of start and see basically what could be causing the problem. So bedtime battles, children that are overtired at bedtime tend to present as absolutely hyper and wired, then have difficulty falling asleep as a result of that. And it's just, I think we kind of spoke about it in previous episodes, but basically when a little one becomes tired, their body starts producing cortisol to keep them awake. That cortisol acts as almost like a kind of caffeine in the system and makes them kind of really, really sort of hyper and not appearing tired at all. Same with once they are asleep, if they have excess levels of cortisol in their system, anytime they're transitioning from kind of light sleep to deep sleep or vice versa, kind of through their sleep cycles through the night, that transition becomes that bit more difficult when there's excess cortisol in the system, and they're more likely to wake up. And also once they wake up, it's harder for them to get back asleep, and you might find that they're then awake for kind of hours in the middle of the night, which obviously is not great. Same thing happens come morning. So body naturally produces cortisol to wake you up for the day. If you already have too much in the system, it then causes you to sort of ping awake well before what we would consider to be morning. And that's when you're kind of early rising. So things to look for in order to correct the overtiredness or rule it out as a problem is your child getting enough daytime sleep? Yep. So you can look and see, there's always sort of averages online you can find, or on myself or Steph's social media, there's kind of charts and graphs that give you an indication of how much daytime sleep your little one should need for their age, whether that's 3 naps, 2 naps, 1 nap. They maybe don't need a nap at all, but maybe a little bit of quiet time's needed. So basically kind of having a look to see what your child should be getting roughly for their age, and if they're not quite meeting that could be the cause of their overtiredness setting in. Also looking at if they are napping, are their naps quite evenly spaced throughout the day, or do they have big gaps between maybe when they have their first nap and then they've got a huge gap before their second, or do they have a big gap between waking up in the morning and going down for a nap and kind of all these things. So you want their if they are napping, their naps to be evenly spaced in the day. My kind of golden rule that I think you can never really go wrong with is, if in doubt, go for an early bedtime. Yep. Early bedtimes are the absolute saviour of sleep in most cases, and it's kind of usually the best place I would say to start.
And so many parents are actually a wee bit worried about putting them down earlier, thinking that might then cause them to wake up earlier, but in actual fact, they're going to get a better sleep and a longer sleep because it's just kind of fitting in better with,
and trying to explain that, because your kind of natural thought is, well, if I put them down earlier, they're going to wake up earlier, and trying to kind of explain how the hormones at play that actually probably the opposite will happen. So when I'm saying early bedtime, I'm kind of talking for like an under 5-year-old, maybe around sort of 6, half 6. Don't worry if the first time you do it, it doesn't make a difference. That's quite normal and expected. Usually you would need to be doing that for a good few nights in a row to actually give them a chance to catch up on any lost sleep and start to see that difference. And it might be quite a gradual shift. The longer you can do it for, the better. But equally, that doesn't mean that that's going to be your new normal and you have to keep doing that for weeks or months on end. Usually, kind of 3-4 nights in a row and you should start to be seeing a difference.
Yeah, 100%.
But just don't be disheartened, if night 1 it doesn't work and you think, oh, that's it, I'm giving up. If you can stick at it, usually then it will make a big difference. I know for a lot of people, particularly like if you're working or if your little one's maybe in childcare, sometimes actually getting home, you might not be getting home till close to 6 and you've still got to fit in like dinner and baths and the bedtime routine, and actually trying to get them down that early is just not possible. And if that is the case, like, don't worry, you can just try and kind of claw back extra time where you can. So if you can only get them to bed 15 minutes earlier than normal, that's still better than putting them to bed that wee bit later. If you are already kind of as early as you can possibly manage, then trying to find little bits of time to claw back elsewhere. So maybe they can't go to bed any earlier, but actually maybe they can get a little bit of a long lie in the morning. They don't have to get up quite so early to leave the house in the morning. Maybe they can at the weekends sneak in a little afternoon nap that they wouldn't normally have, or even just some extra quiet time can make a big difference as well. So just almost giving their wee brains that chance to kind of wind down and offload a little bit. So all these things can make a big difference with overtiredness, even if it seems really small. Like the difference of sort of 10-15 minutes here and there can actually have quite a knock-on effect, particularly if you're doing it for 3-4 plus days in a row. The other big thing to correct overtiredness is just being really consistent with your bedtime routine and your actual time of bed. So if you can get into a nice habit of a nice wind down in the evenings, getting little ones to bed at the same sort of time every night, and also getting them up at the same sort of time every morning, and just having that nice kind of routine through your day, all these things will help as well. Once you have ruled out overtiredness as the problem, or if you've corrected the overtiredness, that's when you can then start looking at what other potential causes might be causing any sleep difficulties. This episode is sponsored by Born This Way. Lynsey McGillivray is the passionate founder of Born This Way Hypnobirthing, where she empowers expecting parents to embrace a calm, confident and positive birth experience. As a registered midwife, birth doula and hypnobirthing practitioner, Lynsey blends her deep knowledge of childbirth with a compassionate and supportive approach, guiding parents through evidence-based techniques that promote relaxation and reduce anxiety. Her mission is to demystify the birth process and provide tools for natural pain relief, ensuring that every family feels informed and empowered on their unique journey. Lynsey's dedication to fostering a holistic and personalised approach to childbirth has made her a trusted and beloved resource to countless parents-to-be. You can find more information over on her social media at Born This Way Hypnobirthing, and we'll pop all the links down below.
So one of the things that, Jen, you and I both get kind of spoken to quite a lot by parents is frequent night wakenings. For babies and children, waking up during the night can be normal, especially in the first year. However, when they are waking 4 or 5 times a night or every hour or are awake for hours during the night, it can make everyone in the house exhausted. If you've already ruled out overtiredness, like you've done all the work to try and get in extra naps or pulling bedtime forward a wee bit, nothing's working, then these frequent night wakenings, there's other things to look out for. Could they be hungry? Has the temperature in the room changed? Have they kicked their blankets off? Did they bring up loads of wind when you were like burping them? Or has the light started to creep in? Are you going in to settle them too quickly? Like, are you giving them that chance to actually settle themselves? Or could you and another caregiver, whoever's turn it is to go in that time, be trying to settle them in a different way so there's not a consistency there and it's actually waking them up more? If your child is under 6 months and they're waking up every couple of hours, it likely is that they need fed. If they're over 6 months and they're waking and they've started solid foods, then trying something like giving them a banana or giving them a wee snack, some like cereal or some yogurt, depending on their age, before bed is a really good tool. It just gives them a nice full tummy. Something that's slow releasing and that breaks down quite slowly is quite good because it helps make them feel fuller for longer. Getting them dressed for bed in the right clothing. If there is a temperature change, like if you know that like in the winter, Bricky will actually, the room's about 19 degrees when they're going to bed, but it's going to drop to 16. You want to make sure that they're dressed appropriately for that so that the change doesn't just like snap them awake open. No, snap them awake. Or if it's in the summer and it's going to be really warm, having a fan in the room but not having it directed at them, like have it so that it's blowing the air around the room rather than directly on them. Blackout blinds for any light creeping in is like, it's a must. It is a must. And there's actually this thing on Amazon that you can get, and it's like a double-sided Velcro, and you attach one side of it to the actual blind, and then you attach the other side to the window frame, and it actually just blocks out. You know how they always, especially the IKEA ones, they always let the light in at the side, just so, so this Velcro just, and you can get it in like different colours so that it matches your window frame as well.
The wee ones, that is it like the suction cup, the grow blinds?
Oh yeah,
they're really good as
well. Yeah,
well.
they are really good. Yeah. So yeah, the other things that you can try is like just giving your baby a chance to settle themselves. There's this French saying "le pause," and it is just like give them a second. It really means like just if they are stirring a wee bit, like just a wee bit grizzle or just like a wee burp or a wee groan. Like sometimes children do this in between like their sleep cycles just to kind of almost get themselves ready to go back over. So kind of give them a wee minute to see if they can do it by themselves. And if you do need to go in to settle them, just keep it calm, keep it quiet, keep minimum talking, and just try and get them back to sleep nice and calmly. And then we can see how that goes. Another thing that we were discussing, Jen, was early rising. So one thing that we've both agreed on is that 6 o'clock is a normal time.
Early.
Well, it's still too early, but actually for a child, like it is.
It's kind of hormonally appropriate,
yes.
like for their little bodies.
Yes. And even if they're on a 7 to 7 schedule, like waking up at 6 the odd day, I mean, they've still had 11 hours of sleep.
Yeah, and for a lot of kids, like 11 hours overnight that's actually all they need.
Yeah.
You know, so you kind of struggling to get them sleeping for longer.
So sometimes it's us that need to adjust our expectations as parents rather than expecting the child to put more work into getting that extra sleep. We just need to reassess.
So
and
there's
just
a
realise
definite difference
that's our
between
morning
like
now.
the natural early riser, which is kind of anything from 6, and then an actual what we would call early waking, which is anything before 6.
Yeah, exactly. So for children, if it's not like a natural like early riser and they're waking at 6 and that's just their norm, like for me, Jessica, she's half 6, like she's always been half 6, we know sometimes we get to 7, very rarely, but yeah, what we found is that it can be a phase or it can be a habit or it can just be them in general. But if they are waking at like 4:30, 5, like too early to be starting your day,
and that's not really normal at that point. There probably is something else going on. If
so
that's the case.
A couple of things that kind of you could try, like if they are still breastfed or if they're still getting a bottle, like every morning, like if your aim is like, right, okay, I want that first feed of the day to actually be at 7 o'clock, not be at 5:30, 5 o'clock, 4:30. Like just pushing the time that before you give them that feed by 10 minutes every day until you get to that time. Like it can take a wee while to get there, but then over that period of time, their kind of hunger signals will start to expect that feed at 7 o'clock rather than at 4:30, 5:30. And if you are getting them up, just make morning as boring as possible so that it's not fun for them and they don't go, oh, this is brilliant. If I get up at this time, I get to go and watch TV. Or, oh, mommy just gives me like snacks just to get me through the morning because she wants to go back to sleep on the couch. Like, just make
don't encourage the early rising.
Yes, exactly.
Although, so on the opposite, if you are getting them up, so say you've tried to settle them and you've maybe got them back down and they've gone back down for 10 minutes and then they've woken again and you kind of are at that point where you're like, it's maybe back of 5, realistically, you're probably not stretching them out much longer.
Yeah.
Rather than just kind of trying to settle them and then giving up and just kind of rolling into morning.
Yeah.
Try and actually have a clear change of style. So go from we're in night mode and we're keeping everything quiet and calm and dark. Once you've decided you're accepting it's morning, almost like leave the room and come back in morning mode. So lights on, open the curtains, big smiles, everything's loud and bright, and make it that kind of clear differentiation of like, okay, now we're in morning mode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for children that are maybe 18 months plus, like having something like a grow clock, or even you can get these lights, like a lamp that like turn on, like with a timer that you can have it so that it turns on when it is like bedtime, when it is like time to wake up. So like these sorts of things are quite good. Like
we noticed a huge difference when we introduced the grow clock with Kaelin. And he loves having that visual cue.
Yeah.
And he will literally, like, even if he's awake, he will wait in bed and wait for you to come get him. And he's like, sun's up.
Yeah.
if that blue star is there, like, he's not getting out of bed.
Yeah.
It's been brilliant.
No, we've got one as well, and we've got it as like a star. So like we've got Pappy Star. So we say like you need to stay in bed until Pappy Star wakes up, and then you can get, like, you're allowed to get up then. And I mean, it works the majority of the time. There's still sometimes if she needs to pee in the morning, then she will get up and pee, and then she'll be like, right, okay, well, I know there's only one wee mini star left in that clock, so it only means there's another like 15 minutes. So
but it's good.
But she will go back into bed and sit there until it's time.
It's good even for like now, like when like the summer, when it's a bit like the mornings are lighter.
Yeah.
So they're waking up and they're not actually sure, like, is it morning? Obviously, like, when they're that age, they can't tell the time. So having that visual cue is actually quite helpful. Same in the winter months, so they wake up and it's pitch black, but actually it's already morning. It's kind of giving them that okay to, actually you're supposed to be awake.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that like I've found as well is, see when the clocks change, like, when you get that extra hour, like, so there's so many different ways that like you can play the clock changes, but see when it's that extra hour that like you're moving, the clock's going forward and you're getting like that wee bit of extra time in the morning, I don't change a thing, because then it goes from
you just enjoy that
from
later
a half
wake
6
up
start to like a half 7 start. I mean, it does eventually start to crawl back, but for a few days I enjoy it.
You just can't enjoy it the other, when it gets 6 months later, then you have to act,
then we act on it
even earlier morning.
We act on that a couple of weeks in advance just to cement it in place.
So there's a few different options you can do with the clock change. So you can like just do nothing, and certainly like kind of every 6 months or every year, once a year, that works really well, and you get that extra hour.
It's like a wee win.
But on the other flip side of the year, if you don't do anything, sometimes it goes the other way, and that sort of 6 o'clock wake becomes a 5 o'clock wake, and at that point you probably want to try and do all you can to gradually shift things so that doesn't happen.
So we will make sure to post about what to do on our social media,
give you some options
well in advance, so that you can get it in place and make sure that it's not causing an early riser.
So that's kind of early rising. The other common sleep disturbance is bedtime battles. And that's when little ones are just not for going to sleep at night, and bedtime that ideally would be a nice sort of 30-minute wind down and 5-10 minutes to actually fall asleep ends up being like a 3-hour long saga. So do you want to kind of start talking a little bit about the kind of older kids and sort of bedtime battles you face there?
So with older children who have got the vocabulary to let you know what it is they want or what they don't want, or ask for a million things, it is like the kind of more common ones is, I need to pee, I need another drink, I just want more cuddle, one more story, please, can you just sit with me for a few more minutes? Or you think that you've got them settled and you leave the room, and then you turn around and they're at the top of the stairs and you're like, excuse me, like, back to bed. But so there can be so many different things that are causing bedtime battles with older children. Like, so cortisol comes into it. You've got anxieties, you've got just wee bedtime fears or just not wanting to be on their own. Sometimes it can be like if they've started school or they've started nursery, that there's just so much going on in their little brains that they can't switch it off, and they just need that wee bit more support to get through it. Like I know that like with Jessica, like especially this week, knowing that she's going back to school, like it was just that you'd put her to bed, she'd be lying there with her eyes closed. Like she does this every night, that she just lies there with her eyes closed and then does her breathing to help her fall asleep. So I know that she does that. So I'm going, okay, I'll just leave her to it. Night, night, we kiss on the forehead, go downstairs. And then she's like, Mummy. I'm like, I need the toilet. And I'm going, you just did the toilet before you had your bath. And she's like, oh, no, I need again. And she goes in and she sits in the toilet. Doesn't really do anything. Sits there for a few minutes and then goes back up to bed. And then a few minutes later, she'll be like, Mummy, I just need one more cuddle. And I'm going, what is it? And she's like, oh, I'm just a wee bit nervous about starting school. And I'm going, okay, that's fine. She like, why don't you head off to sleep? We can have a chat about it in the morning. We can look at pictures. We can look at your uniform. And just giving her different things to let her know that I understand that like she's got this wee fear and this wee nervousness about starting back to school. And then like, tonight, well, I'm not doing bedtime tonight, but last night, which was the night before school, she went to bed and went to sleep straight away because she knew that she started school, like came out of school today, absolutely bouncing off the walls. Like, I had the best day ever. So we know that like there's not going to be battles now until the next thing happens.
Almost just letting them have that wee moment to offload whatever worry it is they have, or just letting them have that wee moment so that they're not going to bed with all these thoughts in their head.
One trick I did hear from me and food, everything. Me and food. One wee thing I did hear about was like, see if there's like an older child and they're like scared of being on their own, or they just keep saying, oh no, don't leave, can you sit with me until I'm here, like giving them an object. And one that was suggested was giving them an onion, and putting the onion like under their bed or beside their bed, and like the onion will kind of protect you. And it's just because it's just the most random object. Like if it was a teddy, you would kind of think, right, okay, but they probably got teddies at this point, so like they're seeing it as something of yours, or like something that's important that you use.
You often carry an onion around with you?
No, but like from my fridge, like you would take like the onion and give them it, and see the amount of people that have said that this has worked for them, and their kids gone, cool, Mr. Onion will look after me.
Do you got a wee face on it?
No, but I do wonder whether it's like if they've maybe had like fears of like vampires or like dragons or something like coming in, and onions being like a deterrent. I don't really know where to come back to. This is something I'm going to look into, and I will.
It must be like an old wives' tale.
Yeah, but everyone that I've kind of spoken to about it have said, yeah, we did it and it worked. So there's one. There's a wee random fact
Learn
for you.
something new every day.
A wee free hack for you this time. So do you want to kind of talk about the younger ones and battles when?
Yeah, so there's less obviously of a actual back and forth battle because there's no chat. So like with my older one, a lot of the time he just wants to play longer, and he's got a new toy that he hasn't had enough time with that day, and that's what kind of is our bedtime battle. But with my daughter, she's under 1, she's not talking yet. So bedtime battles there tend to be much more to do with timing. Yeah. So it's either, are we putting her down too early and she's not quite ready, and so rather than just kind of winding down and falling off to sleep nicely, she's just lying awake for ages and causing mischief and just not ready to sleep at all. Or what I'm finding quite often at the moment, so her naps, she was kind of transitioning from like 3 down to 2, and then to 2 naps. We've just not quite perfected them yet. So some days she naps really, really well and we'll get like 2 hour-and-a-half naps. Other days we might just get like an hour and a half in the morning and then only like a half hour, like a weekend of cat nap in the afternoon. Yep. And what ends up happening is she ends up kind of too tired before bed, but we can't, like, she maybe wakes up at like, let's say like kind of 2:30. So I can't put her down early enough without there still being quite a big gap. Yep. And then what happens is I'll try and give her an early bedtime to catch up and not let that overtiredness creep in. But she almost treats it as like another nap. Yeah. And then you get a bit of a false start. So you put her down, she goes to sleep right away. You think, yes, brilliant. And then 40 minutes later, she wakes up and she is like, as if that's her. She's had her sleep. She's ready to play.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard to resettle at that point because she's also just had that wee sleep. So she's no longer got that kind of sleep pressure and ready for sleep. But she obviously very much still needs a full night of sleep.
Yeah.
And so it's almost at that point, you're kind of redoing your bedtime routine and almost like pressing reset.
Yes.
But it does mean that, then you can have that sort of knock-on effect of, well, now she's actually not getting to sleep till maybe closer to 9 o'clock at night. And then that means she's not getting as much sleep overnight. And then the next day we've got overtiredness becoming a problem. And that's when you have to then start being a bit more mindful of, okay, so not only does she need her 2 naps the next day, but also she needs a bit of a catch-up sleep and another early night. And then you just have to hope that you don't get that false start the next night and that cycle continues. So that's our kind of battle at the moment. So most of the time she is going down well and going to sleep easily. But we definitely still get some interesting nights. And they tend to, so both my kids are now in the same room. So usually if one goes to sleep really well, the other one wants to put a stop to that.
Yes.
So if Kaelin is going to bed, he's tired, he's quite happy, goes to sleep, no problem. Then Alyssa decides that no, that's the night she wants to be up and causing havoc, wakes him up and he's there trying to pull the duvet over his head and
we had that. We actually had that this week with or last week even, that Emily had just a random nap. She'd fallen asleep in the car, which is very unusual for her. Well, no, it was actually around about lunchtime, so it was all right. It was okay. But she was just like a bit more wired at bedtime, just like, I'm here to party. And Jessica ended up going into her wardrobe and getting out her earmuffs and putting her earmuffs on, going, I can't sleep, she's too noisy. I'm thinking earmuffs aren't going to drown that out. But it was just her singing songs and just like, I don't want to go to sleep. She was asleep within like 15 minutes, but like she was making
just having a wee protest first.
Just making a scene, but it was just Jessica's response, putting earmuffs on. And I had to go and take them off her. I was like, Jessica, you can't really go to sleep with them on, baby. And she was like, but Emily keeps waking me up. I was like, well, you weren't sleeping yet, but okay. Good thinking. I'll give you kudos for that.
So at the end of each episode, we like to do a hack of the week and a fail of the week. So Steph, do you want to take the hack for this week?
Yeah. So this hack is something that I did it as a nanny. So as soon as I had kids that were past the weaning stage, this is something that we've always done. And it doesn't matter whether it's summer, whether it's winter, whether it's any time of the year. But you can so it's a watermelon, pretty much. And turning a watermelon into a watermelon ice lolly. So
intrigued.
You might think, oh, we need to blend it all up and put it in a wee holder. No, you don't. What you can do is actually just chop it up into the wee kind of triangles, or some supermarkets actually sell them already sliced like that. Just get a knife and just pierce the skin. And then you can either use a lollipop stick or a spoon upside down. So like the actual handle of the spoon's going in through that way. Wrap it up in cling film and stick it in the freezer. And there you go. You've got a watermelon ice lolly. So you've got healthy. It's actually really good for teething as well. And the kids just love it. Like, absolutely love it. And it melts really quickly in their mouth because it's watermelon. Like, it just kind of, as soon as you bring it out, it starts to kind of go soft again. But like, it's not like one that you would just stand there and like, you actually like would take a wee chunk off, and it's just really refreshing. I quite like it as well.
I like that you've stuck with the fruit hacks as well.
Oh, yes, so I have.
So I am branching out from my fail this week. So I've learned the lessons. We're no longer going to the supermarket.
Good. Well, with kids, you're still going to the supermarket.
Yeah. I'll have to go myself, unfortunately. But so my fail this week it was a bit of a delayed reaction fail, but I was changing my wee girl's nappy before bed. And normally I would be on it and put one nappy ready to go before I take the other nappy away. Yeah. But I'd taken one nappy off, realised that I didn't have a nappy handy, got up to go get one, came back, she'd peed everywhere. So the changing mat she'd actually completely bypassed it and just peed all over the bedroom floor. With carpet. But I was like, oh, it's bedtime. I don't really have time to deal with it now. I'll get it in the morning. Just quickly wiped it with a baby wipe, got her organised, got her dried off, popped her to bed, left the room, forgot all about it. We then went to Lake District for a week.
Oh God. I can see where this is going.
So came back. Now we've got a cat, and so my mum had been coming up to look after the cat. But sometimes when we're away, the cat does get a wee bit sassy, and she has been known to have a wee dirty protest now and again. But it is usually like if her litter tray hasn't been cleaned, and she would like do the toilet next to the litter tray. But we came back and checked the house, everything was fine, went into the kids' room, and it stank of pee. But like proper like old man pee. Or like there's no way that's the child. The cat's obviously got a bit sassy and peed in the kids' room, and we were both, like me and my husband, were going around like sniffing the carpet trying to find whereabouts it was. The poor cat is in the bad books, like, oh, I can't believe she's done that. And then eventually we located the spot. And of course it was the exact spot that
it just
suddenly
clicked.
the light bulb, like, oh, actually, yeah, there was already a pee incident in this location. So yeah, cue me now having purchased a nice expensive carpet cleaning machine, which actually I'm actually quite happy about, because it's nothing more satisfying than like shampooing your carpets.
Yes.
See the grime and dirt, that water you're left with is awful. So I'm going to shampoo every carpet in the house. So it's been a good lesson. Yeah, I would recommend it. It's really satisfying. But yeah, quite an expensive fail. So lesson for the future is
bring your nappies with you.
Bring your nappies with you, and if your child does pee on the floor, just clean it up properly at the time. Don't leave it to fester for a week.
Thanks for listening. If you would like us to cover anything or you have any questions, please get in touch through our Instagram at mama.needs.sleep. Our inbox is always open.